Yeah, you bet. So it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for reaching out to me.
Yeah, you bet. So let's,
Anything to get the word, anything to spread the word.
that's it. We're going to spread the word, that's for sure. So let's begin with this. Before we get into your work as a writer, I want to know 5 years ago, this pandemic was something that was unprecedented and changed all of our lives in various ways. How did you get through that pandemic of 2020, and how has it influenced the way that you live and do your work in 2025?
Ah, wow, that's a great question. I actually, I feel like in general, the pandemic threw most of us into a real period of fear. Um, but I feel like for me, um, I had coping mechanisms that worked for me. One, I feel like I live in the country, so I have space.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of walking in nature. I did a lot of spending time with my dog because she's quite a joy for me. Um, I played a lot of cards with people, with my housemate at the time. We had an ongoing 500 rummy game that went to like 50,000 during the pandemic. But and so I was I feel like maybe I dealt with it better than some people did. And I feel like it really I think it changed me. I think it's changed everybody, but I think it changed me because it's given me a better appreciation for the small things in life, the simple things in life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. You've had a history of being a dog trainer and you're writing now, but if you were to be put in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day and the kids wanted to know what you've done with your career and what you do now, how would you explain that to them?
Right, that's another good question. I I think I would start by saying that when from that point on, from their 12-year-old time up to the end of their time here on earth, they should try to do things that bring them joy. Um, because that's why we're here.
Yeah.
We're not here to trudge along in a job we hate. We're not here to do things that we feel are compromising our integrity. And so I would say that it's really important to um, go inward and what is speaking to you, what is calling for you to do. And that's kind of the path that I've been following since I think I was about 40 years old, maybe a little later, is that I didn't want to just be locked into something because it was making me a lot of money or it was going to get me a retirement at the end of the day, at the end of 40 years or 30 or whatever. Um, just do something that you're passionate about. And I feel like there's a shift going on in the country, in the world, actually. And I feel like the young people are going to be doing more of that.
Yeah, I think this Generation Z has embraced that entrepreneurial spirit and they don't feel like they need to earn a pension, right? They they
Exactly.
they want to take care of, but I think also that COVID period was an existential fork in the road for a lot of people to say,
Mm-hmm.
what am I doing? It was the mirror, standing in front of the mirror moment. What am I doing,
It was.
with the rest of the time that I have? I think especially for people that are over a certain age, over 40 or 50, it's like we know that we have potentially less than half of the time
Right.
left.
Right.
What are we going to do?
No, you're absolutely right. Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this. What did you want to be when you were 12? What was your dream job?
I didn't have one.
Okay.
I was one of these kids that was very shy, had kind of low self-esteem. Um, and I kind of didn't think big at that point in my life.
Yeah.
I didn't really come into my own until, like I said, in my 40s. I feel like I was just going with what my parents' expectations were, my friends' expectations were. So maybe you could say I was a late bloomer in that
Yeah.
sense, but time's only a concept. It's, there's endless time. So, I feel like it doesn't matter when you wake up to your true purpose, as long as you do wake up to your true purpose.
So, what were the foundational elements? Take me back to where you were born and raised, and what were the elements, the seeds that were planted that have allowed you to be a children's book author, to love dogs, to be a trainer? What were those elements that have led to your professional aspirations?
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and my parents were, I would say they were kind of the typical, you know, parents of the 60s, 70s, we lived in a suburb. Um, I went to public school. It was very, it was a time when neighborhoods were like, you could ride your bikes and your kids would hang out on the streets and nobody was worried about the safety of their children. And it was, that was, I feel like that was a blessing we used to have neighborhood parties and barbecues and all of that. So that kind of, I think that laid a foundation for me for an appreciation of community, and being part of a community, and giving and, that kind of thing. And, like I said, I was shy. I had not a lot of confidence, but I feel like my parents never emphasized that. They just kind of said, you want to do it? Do it. You'll do it. Like they kind of let me go through that period without like saying, why are you this way? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like, and that my parents are both passed now, but I feel like they were sometimes surprised when I became an adult and some of the things I did and choices I made. I feel like they they were kind of they were kind of really applauding me, but it was outside of their comfort zone totally,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Totally does. I get it. I totally do. So,
Because they
who's,
were very like, you get out of high school or college, whatever, and you just get your job and you just work that job and you know what I mean? And that was not the path I took. So I feel like they didn't totally get that.
yeah. No, I understand that totally. So, who's been that inspiration? Who's been that hero for you in your life to allow you to find your place and to chase your dreams?
Well, I guess I would have to say my husband, who's also passed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like he didn't understand a lot of the choices I made, but he always championed me.
Yeah. So, you were a professional dog trainer for 16 years?
15 years, yeah.
15.
Hmm.
What did you like the best about it? What was it that drove you? I mean, I love dogs, but I've seen that world before. I remember I went to Seattle years ago to see friends of the family, and it's an intense world when you get into that world. What was it that you loved the most about it?
I I guess what I loved about it the most was that I feel like it brought out the best in me.
Yeah,
Um, because again, it showed me that I could really make a difference in people's lives. And I remember going to, because the programs I did were primarily, I would go to the people's homes and work with the owners and the dogs in their homes. And I would be there and it was like time, like I might have been there 2 hours and it felt like I was there 10 minutes because I was just in the zone of so enjoying it. And so happy to be able to make that connection. And it was like, wow, you you can do this. And I just I feel like it was a stepping stone to giving me even more confidence in my life.
What are the things that are the most endearing about Basset Hounds for you?
Oh, their physical appearance is,
Yeah,
I think,
sure.
so cute. I mean, uh, the long ears and the short legs and that little, the howl, that bailing, howling sound they make. And I feel like when you bring them out in public or you walk them, or people are just like drawn to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not that common. I mean, not in not in certain places in the US, you don't always see them. So I think they stand out to people.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. If you could meet one interesting person, one fascinating person on the planet right now that's alive and spend some time with them, ask some questions, who would you love to meet?
Oh God, you asked some really good questions. Would I love to meet? Um, wow. Huh.
Maybe like an author. I mean, let me ask you this before we get to that. Let me ask you this. As a children's book author, what was your favorite book growing up? What was the book that captivated you that maybe gave you the spark to want to do it yourself one day?
Well, I love the Dr. Seuss books,
Yeah,
Green Eggs and Ham. And yeah, I did love those. And I would read them over and over.
yeah, yeah. So when did you, what was the first thing that you wrote and gave to somebody that you got a good response from them, a good visceral response that made you think that you could do this, that you could be published one day?
Well, um, I used to, well, in high school, I took a creative writing class and I really liked it. And I remember I wrote this story about a dog, interestingly enough, that was like homeless and he just roamed and he was roaming, and I just talked about all the things he did. And I remember reading it to my father, and he's like, that's really good.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then again, I just kind of didn't do anything with it in my earlier years. I just didn't pursue it, but it always called to me. It was in always in the background that I should. And then I don't know, maybe probably 10, 20, 15 years from ago, I started writing for my local newspaper. And I did like human interest stories. And I loved it. I would, and often I was the one that would go out and identify these stories for them. Like, here's a person. I remember doing a girl in high school that had a cancer diagnosis and how she was overcoming it. And, I did some really good ones, and I got really good feedback from the community.
yeah.
So I think it was like step by step getting me there. But it really wasn't until, and I had this idea to do the children's books for the Basset Hounds when I was taking them for a walk years ago. And I was like, well, didn't do anything with it. But then I got I got a visit from my deceased dog, Randall, and he's like, Mom, you need to do this book. And I was like, okay, I can't put it on the back burner anymore. It's got to come out now.
So
So,
so when that first book was published and you got that box in the mail, or you actually saw it and you got it in your hands, how did it feel?
I don't know, it feels phenomenal. I mean, you're just like, wow. But and then a part of it is like surreal too. It's like, wow, you did this. And then also with it comes like this sense of, well, now I have a responsibility. I've got to get this out. It's not just seeing it in print now. I've got to make sure it gets into the hands of the people that need to read it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the stage where I am now. I'm trying to get it out there as much as I can through, podcasts like yours, through I've been doing a lot of school visits, which is really fun because you get to read it to the kids,
Yep.
and there's nothing more open and accepting, and they're just it's just great to be with the kids.
Yeah. So we kind of touched a little bit before we got on here about what you're doing lately. Talk to me about your latest book that you're working on.
So the latest book that came, so I have the three Randall and Hunter Go with the Flow children's books,
Yeah.
which, one book one, two, and three, and they kind of like um talk about the theme of adaptability, resilience for kids, being open to change. And then I don't know, like for some people this might be the woo-woo stuff, but um I've been getting a lot of downloads from spiritual downloads. And since 2023, I've been doing like a lot of automatic writing where I'm getting messages. And then I was told, okay, you're getting these messages because you need to get them out into a book. You need to get people interested in knowing that there's something beyond our physical life. So I put in all of these um, what they channeled messages into a book, and it's called We Need a Voice, messages from the spirit world. And it's most of it's not me, it's their messages. I did like intros and you know but that is now available on Amazon and most places you can buy books. And it's I'm getting a lot of good response from that too, because I was told that it's like a dip your toe into the world of spirituality. It's to get people interested.
So a lot of people don't have that ability to kind of tap into the spiritual world, anything that's not seen, anything that's on the other side, or have any of those clairvoyant moments. When did that happen for you? When has that, how
Well,
did that
again, I
develop?
think I think it was all, to your opening question, I think it started right after COVID, um, right at the end of 2022. Um, I just A friend of mine gave me a book, I read the book, which led me to watching some online things, which led me that, and I just kept following it. And it was all this spiritual information. And the next thing I know, I'm getting really into meditation, which is very helpful if you want to communicate with the spirit. You've got to be open, and you've got to be not in your monkey mind. And I just started doing meditation. Next thing I know, I'm getting information from Randall and Hunter. I'm getting information from my mother, my father, my husband, all these people in the spirit world. And I was like, wow, wow. And then at first you doubt it, but then there's too much validation. I couldn't doubt it anymore.
Yeah. So what gets you up every day? What motivates you to create these stories and to write these words and to do the work that you do?
Well, I think it's just because I'm following my true path,
Yeah.
and it feels good. It feels right. It feels peaceful and content, gives me contentment. And uh yeah, so yeah, yeah, that's
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you, ready to go out into the world and to do your thing. And you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained. What advice would you impart on that young version? And would that version of you listen?
definitely wouldn't have listened. There's no question.
Right.
I would say um I would tell my 18-year-old self that your greatness and your impact on this world is without question, and uh don't hold back.
So let's say you were to walk into a room of everybody that's known you as a dog trainer and an author, and you could go to the front of that room and tell them a fun story about your life. Maybe the first cool trip you ever went on, a magical place you traveled to, the first concert you saw, maybe the first time you had a breakthrough moment as a dog trainer, your first Basset Hound you ever got, maybe just a fun story that you could tell that group. What would you tell that room of people?
And you want it to be a fun story.
Well,
Okay.
it can be anything. It can be anything you want.
Well, I can think of a more recent one. But again, it was kind of pushing beyond the fear. Um, a year ago well, it'll be coming up on a year in December. I went to Thailand for a month.
Yeah,
But this wasn't just like going to Thailand. This was now remember, I just turned 67, so I'm not like, you know, I mean, that's only a number. I realize that. But so 5 years before that, during COVID, I had signed up to go on this to be a volunteer with this group called Global Volunteers International to do this elephant like track walk with the elephants and track their behavior and stuff. Well, then COVID happened and there was quarantining and all this. And I said, well, let's just put it off. So I put it off. And last year was the last opportunity I had to use it. Like I had to use that trip or lose it because they weren't going to give me a refund. So I said, well, now you're 5 years older than you were when you were originally going to do this. There was a lot of physical um, walking, strenuous, walking and all this. And most of there are older people that do these things, but I knew most of them were going to be young people. So I I'm like, well, you're going to do it. So I'm packing and I'm in my head and I'm going like, well, are you crazy? You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to keep up with the young people. What are you doing? What are you thinking? And then all of a sudden, I just got this message, a download saying it's going to be wonderful. And you just have your mantra needs to be the happy traveler, be the happy traveler. Well, I went and it was life changing. It
yeah,
was like one of the best experiences of my life. Yes, it was physically challenging, but, yes, I was around a lot of 20-year-olds, but they were the kindest, most caring, most compassionate group of people. We had so much fun. And they're like, we don't see you as 60 some years old. You're
yeah,
fine. You're fine with us. And I was like, if that's the future, if that's our young people, our future is great
yeah,
because they were just, and it was an amazing experience. So, I would just tell people try to move beyond your fear because sometimes the greatest rewards lie beyond the fear,
yeah.
right?
I totally agree. So, of everything that you've done and accomplished and evolved to at this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I'm the proudest of, I'm the proudest that I have reached a point in my life where I am content within me. I feel like I really understand who I am now.
So let's dig a little bit further into that. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, all of your
Mm-hmm.
readers, everyone that you work with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, I feel like I'm as we all are. I feel like at the soul level I'm perfect. I feel like at the in as a physical person I'm imperfect, striving to be perfect.
Yeah,
And I think the way we get there is to be full expressions of love on this earth. And that's what I really want to be.
So if anyone wants to get your books, they want to reach out, they have questions, any of the good business in your world, where's the best place to go?
Well, my website is maryannewood.com. Pretty easy. Maryanne, Maryanne. Don't forget the E, wood.com. And then there's the books, all of the books are on Amazon. And yeah, that's, or you can go to the website and it'll connect, it'll bring you to the books. So
Okay.
yeah, so buy the books.
Yes,
That's why
exactly.
they're out there.
That's
That's
right.
why they're out there. Yeah. So, and for little ones, they're ideal. The Hunter and Randall series are ideal for kids like kindergarten through second grade. Earlier than that, the parents can read them to them. There's a lot of good lessons in in the books.
I will
A
be
lot
sure
of
to
good
put,
lessons.
absolutely. I will be sure to put links in the show notes. This has been great. Thank you so much. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with all the releases. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Thank you so much. It's been great
Yeah,
chatting with you.
absolutely. Thank
Bye.
you.